Hello everyone, Karen here with Prophecy Watchers. Thank you for joining us today for a special Orlando Prophecy Summit Conference update. Believe it or not, we are just 4 weeks away from this Orlando Prophecy Summit. If you would like to join us but cannot come to Florida, please do join us via live stream at prophecywatchers.com. Just scroll down till you see the live stream banner and you can sign up there. We are speaking with Bill Salus today, who's going to be joining us over the conference weekend with a couple different messages. And I wanted to give a sneak peek of kind of what those topics are going to be covering. So thank you for joining us, Bill.
Karen, I love being on Prophecy Watchers TV shows at any time.
Well, we always love having you. I was looking over the speaker list, and you have a really interesting topic that you've chosen to cover at the conference. So kind of give us a little bit of more information about what that is.
Absolutely. I'm excited about this, Karen. Two new topics I really haven't talked much about in prior conferences with Prophecy Watchers. The first one's going to be dealing with a cup of trembling on Jerusalem, Zechariah 12:2, and a burdensome stone to all the nations. So the surrounding peoples will be a cup of trembling, the Arab countries around Israel. And the burdensome stone to all nations who try to move it, it'll sorely cut them or wound them, it says. Now, a lot of people put these passages into the Armageddon campaign, but I'm going to go Star Trek eschatologist on everybody. And let me caveat that in May of 2017, Dr. David Reagan, who's now retired from Lamb and Lion Ministries, he put a note on the cover of his Lamplighter magazine. He called me a Star Trek eschatologist who boldly goes where no man has gone before.
I love it.
And I'm going to definitely be doing that at this conference because I'm going to show how, contrary to popular teaching, Zechariah 12:2 is not dealing with the Armageddon campaign. Most people put Zechariah 12, pretty much all of Zechariah 12, into Armageddon. But I'm going to show why there's two different things going on. This is actually something that precedes Armageddon. I'm going to give all kinds of arguments for it. It's going to deal with the final conclusion of the Arab-Israeli conflict, and I'm very excited about it. Definitely in the first segment, as well as the second segment, which we'll talk about in a moment, people are going to want to get the live stream. I'll tell you why, because they're going to hear new information, and they're going to be going, what did he say? I'm glad I got the live stream, because I want to go back and hear that again. Could he be right?
Yeah. I mean, I never feel like I'm able to actually write things fast enough when I'm seeing somebody speak in person. So that is one of the big perks of live stream. You can go back, you can watch it, you can pause it, you can rewatch it as many times as you need to make sure that you get those notes. Because the more that you write it, the more that you hear it, the better you'll understand it. And then you can share it with others. And then when you're watching the news, you'll be able to piece it together as things are actually happening right before our eyes, which is really exciting.
Yeah, and this first message, the cup of trembling to the surrounding peoples and the burdensome stone to all nations, is very timely and relevant right now in light of what's going on in the Middle East. It's going to talk about how this all gets resolved in a military conflict where God actually works in concert supernaturally with the Israeli Defense Forces. And that's one of the reasons we're going to show why it's not got anything to do with Armageddon, because the Israeli Defense Forces will not be involved in that war at all. They'll be the Israelis, the Jews will actually be fleeing for their lives into the tribulation period at the second half, etc. So there's going to be a lot of very interesting facts that I'll uncover, and the audience is going to realize how, hey, this really does seem to apply for now what's going on in the Middle East.
For sure. And the second topic that you are discussing is mysteries of a post-trib rapture gap. Now, I know that's been a very controversial, hot button topic. People love to question if the rapture is going to happen and then the tribulation is going to immediately occur after that, or if there's going to be a gap of a couple of days, couple of weeks, months, years. Obviously you have thoughts on it since you've created an entire session around it. What do you think that timeline is going to look like at this point? Or do you even really know?
I think I do. I think I have some very important clues that I'm going to share with the audience. And I call it the post-rapture pre-tribulation gap because it's a kind of a mysterious period of time, unspecified amount of time that happens after the rapture, so post-rapture, but before the tribulation, pre-tribulation, because it's not really the rapture that starts the tribulation time clock ticking. In fact, I'm going to read a quote to you for this segment here. Tim LaHaye, of course, he's gone to be with the Lord back in 2016, but he wrote the Left Behind book series and the TV movie. The movies came out from that series. And he said this. I asked him when I was studying this gap back in 2016 and prior. I was at a conference with him, and so I said, Tim, what do you think about this gap that people are talking about, but no one's really diving into? And here's what he said to me. He says, pre-trib scholars are not agreed on whether the rapture starts the tribulation. Nothing in Scripture says that it does. Daniel 9:27 says the Antichrist will confirm a covenant with Israel for 1 week, or in other words, a 7-year week, 7 years, which leads me to believe that that starts the tribulation period. There's a high possibility that the rapture could take place prior, but only God knows how long. And that's the point. It's an unspecified period of time. Now, a lot of the speakers that will be at the conference will actually probably say, yes, I do believe that there's a gap. Here's a list of people, not just at the conference, but there's John MacArthur, Joe Rosenberg, Ron Rhodes, Mark Hitchcock, Fruchtenbaum, Thomas Ice, Hal Lindsey, Chuck Missler, Tim LaHaye, David Hawking, etc. And I could go on and on and on, because primarily most everyone thinks there's a gap.
So why do you think that it has been such a controversial topic then over the years? Like, you obviously have a lot of people that are in this camp that do support the gap theory after the rapture and before the tribulation. But what do you think the controversy is around that?
Well, there's a little controversy over whether there is a gap. There's a few people who think there won't be a gap. I'm going to talk about those couple arguments in my session, and I'll go pretty forward and refute them, I think, quite handily in my talk at your conference. The other controversy, though, is really the timing of the gap. Some people like Gary Stearman and myself put some time on it, maybe a few years and things like that, where others think it's going to be very short. And we really don't know. But what we can determine, see, most of the guys who talked about the gap and acknowledge that there's a gap, they kind of leave it right there. But for my interest, it gets piqued when I think about it. Look, if there's a gap of any significant period of time, I don't care if it's a few months or a couple of years, you would think that the Bible has something to say about that time period in Bible prophecy, because at that point in time, everything goes supernatural. The rapture has happened.
Right.
That's a miraculous supernatural event. And you'd have to think everything from there on starts to get, supernatural. The supernatural becomes the natural. The paranormal becomes the new normal. There's going to be unrestrained lawlessness, we're told in 2 Thessalonians 2. Supernatural lying signs and wonders that Satan's going to put forward to establish his point man, the Antichrist. So I took the time, and I'm going to share a lot of information. This comes out of my next prophecies book that you folks offer there in my Here to Eternity series. I'm going to take the time to unpack all of these prophecies that I think could happen. Something's going to have to happen where Israel feels the need to sign on to this covenant. We're told in Isaiah 28, there's going to be an overflowing scourge that's happening throughout the world. I'm going to identify that for the audience. It talks about the other party in Isaiah 28:15 of the covenant. It says it's with death and Sheol. Well, who are they? Well, interestingly enough, they show up as the fourth horseman in the apocalypse. Death and Hades, the fourth horseman. Now, Hades is the Greek word for Sheol, the Hebrew word. So I'm real excited about both of these messages, Karen, because we're going to go ahead and lay out some real Star Trek eschatology on your audience.
Well, I think we're kind of in those Star Trek days at this point. So I think this information is so relevant, so timely. It's amazing how quickly the events are just unfolding before our eyes. Literally, newscasts and news stations are covering these topics that we are discussing in Bible prophecy. So I'm very excited to get to hear your messages and to see what information you bring. Is there any last thing that you want to share with our audience before we close out the little teaser conversation for today?
I do, Karen. Thank you for this. Basically, to the audience, I would say the lineup of speakers are today's top Bible prophecy experts. I've had the opportunity to speak at every Prophecy Watchers conference throughout time. And these guys, the messages they're putting forward, Billy Crone and J.B. Hickson and so many, Tom Hughes, et cetera, are really cutting edge and very well put together. Great research, and it really puts you into a gripping situation. I mean, I like watching the speakers every time I go, but this last couple ones, Karen, I was riveted. I tried to make every session that I could because of the quality of the information that's coming forward at these Prophecy Watchers conferences.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Bill. And I know that I am definitely looking forward to seeing your messages. And if you have had your appetite piqued as well, and you would like to join us via live stream, please visit prophecywatchers.com. Scroll down till you see the live stream banner and sign up. And that way you can join us over the weekend and catch Bill's messages too. We hope to see you here, there, or in the air.